Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I just wanted to jump on and talk about Virginia Giuffre, this poor woman. I think she's the lady who sort of exposed the Epstein scandal that led to the removal of Andrew's title as prince. She is. There are lots of survivors of the Epstein abuse, but Virginia has been like the figurehead, hasn't she? And she's been like a guiding light, if you like, for her survivor sisters. And very sadly, earlier this year, Virginia apparently, just as she was coming to sort of become recognised as, telling the truth, etc., and had her book coming out, for some unknown reason, Virginia took herself away from this world. Supposedly, did she though? Was she taken? Did she take herself away from this world, or did somebody else take her away from this world? I think that will always be a question in people's minds. And before her book was released, now I presume her book is doing very well. I presume that it is anyway. A few weeks ago on this channel, I said I won't be buying it. And the reason why I won't be buying it is not because I don't want to read it, because I would love to read it. And I would love to hear Virginia's story in full, even though bits of it have been released, haven't they? But Virginia's estate, the money from her estate is disappearing. Where are the millions that Virginia's received? Millions over the years in settlements, and now of course you've got the book royalties coming in. I presume she got an advance for the book. Where is all Virginia's estate disappearing to? And the problem is this man, her estranged husband. Doesn't he look like that Desi Freeman who's on the run in Australia? He looks just like him to me. But anyway, they were married. They seemed happily married initially. Then it turned out they weren't happily married. And Virginia came out and said that there was abuse in this marriage. So we're going to have a look at that. The thing is, what has happened to Virginia's millions? So I'm here on this video basically to say to you, please don't buy Virginia's book, because you don't know where the proceeds for a book are going to. Maybe to an abuser like him. And the other thing is, I want to point out another book that is coming out in January from a fellow survivor, The Blue Butterfly. That this might be a better book to buy. At least she's still alive at the moment, so the proceeds are going to her, and we're going to look at that, what that book's about, etc. And that can be ordered in advance at the moment from Amazon. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I just want to talk about where people are asking questions now. This woman has received millions in settlements over the years, some of which went to charity, but some of which, should be there in her estate. Where are they? But her estate has dwindled and nobody knows where the money's gone. Hi, Daniel. Happy Saturday. So that's what we're going to look at. So let's first of all look at this article in LBC. As I say, I heard about this weeks and weeks ago, and I mentioned it in a video. But it seems to be being talked about a lot more now. So this is an article from LBC. Every time I see this girl, especially that you see, she was 41 when she died, but when we see the pictures of her when she was literally, just a child, wasn't she? She looked so young. 17 when she was trafficked. Anyway, Virginia Giuffre's family are fighting to find her missing millions after the large amount of money she received in settlements was lost. Giuffre, the most prominent victim of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, was thought to have amassed $22 million, £16.5 million fortune in settlements and compensation for the years of abuse she suffered at the financier's hands. Now, I'm sure she, maybe for interviews that she did as well and things, she's received money. She was quite a well-off person, I think. But where's it gone now? And of course, let's not forget $12 million, £9 million that she received to settle a claim she brought against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and the former prince has always denied wrongdoing. So the legal battle over her estate has seen the Hall valued at just $472,000, £233,000, which, it's still a lot of money to most of us, but it's a massive difference, isn't it? Where are all these, to go from millions to thousands? Her friends say it is a legal technicality. The thing is, I don't think she was divorced from her ex-husband. They were estranged but not divorced. So this is her brother and his wife, and these pictures of Virginia when she was so young. I mean, she was young when she died. She was only 41, for God's sake. So they say that the value of the estate is around $501,000, £240,000, with the rest of her reported estate unaccounted for. So as I say, it's a lot of money, but not if, where's the millions gone? It's a lot less than it's supposed to be, isn't it? And they are concerned about the fact that Robert Giuffre, Virginia's husband, from whom she had filed for divorce, may attempt to receive the money himself. Do you know, this is why I cannot believe that Virginia took her own life with all these unfinished things. So she'd filed for divorce from her husband, who she was accusing of abuse, etc. And she didn't tidy up all these loose ends before she, took herself away. She had her book coming out. She just doesn't feel right, does it? I mean, I know when you're in that sort of state, I expect you don't think about all the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, etc. Though, having said that, I think people do think about that, don't they? They try and leave things as settled as possible. I just feel with Virginia, I don't feel she would have done what she did knowing that he might receive the money. Her money, she would have sorted the money thing out, surely, at least, and then knowing that she had her book coming out. Anyway, a source told the Telegraph, hopefully the court will order a full forensic audit of her estate, and Robert will certainly have some explaining to do. I hope there is a forensic audit of her estate. So the row over Giuffre's estate began with a disagreement over who should be named administrators. Giuffre's two elder children, Christian, 19, and Noah, 18, who live with their father, successfully applied to the court to be appointed administrators earlier this year, but they are being challenged by Carrie Loudon, one of Giuffre's lawyers, and Cheryl Myers, her housekeeper and carer. We've never really got to find out the circumstances of Virginia's death, have we? Was she alone in the house? Was her housekeeper there? Anyway, the Giuffre brothers reportedly reject the validity of their mother's purported final wishes, which were disclosed on an email to Lisa Foster in February. Oh gosh, this poor woman, even after she's deceased, It feels like everyone's trying to get a piece of her. So in the email, the late sex abuse survivor stated she wanted her money to go to the children with specific parameters as well as to other family members. Inheritors of the estate could benefit from the royalties to Nobody's Girl, Giuffre's bombshell posthumous memoir, which detailed abuse she suffered at the hands of powerful men. Up to $3 million, £2.25 million of the settlement paid by Andrew was ring-fenced for the charity. What charity? And is still being held in an escrow account managed by a third party. It's still mysterious, isn't it? So Giuffre also received $500,000 from Epstein in 2009 and an undisclosed payment from Ghislaine Maxwell in 2017. So, this is it. So this woman that many people are still accusing of lying, but she got all these payouts from people. So people were paying out, for even though supposedly they were innocent. It's a horrible case, actually, the whole thing, isn't it, from start to finish. So Giuffre owned 4 properties, including a 6-bedroom seafront home in Ocean Reef, Perth, and a ranch in Near Gabby. Imagine how, it's so sad. So all that money, all those properties, and she ended up taking her own life. Which just felt, that just feels that all that, this, it's like she never escaped from that misery from when she was young. She should have been, by 41, that people were starting to believe her, and her book was coming out. She had everything to live for, really, didn't she, then? But because of really a whole life, Virginia was used, wasn't she? One way or another by men from when she was a teenager. And so all that money, all those properties, she had children, and she was miserable. Obviously, because she was miserable. If we believe the official narrative, she was miserable enough to take her own life. So all that money she had, all those properties she had, that, and she led a privileged life in a lot of ways. She's seen. Gosh, I mean, she was abused, of course, but she's been to lots of places. She's, she would have had her head turned by Epstein when she was young, because, that's attractive for a 17-year-old girl. Somebody, saying they'll take you on their private jet to their private island and introduce you to all these famous, powerful people. At first, she would have thought that was a good thing, wouldn't she? It's so sad. Hi, Joanne. Yep, RAP. It's I just feel that this, even now she's no longer with us, she can't rest in peace, can she? Hi, Bluebell. She just cannot rest in peace. It's like people are still using her. People are still using her, aren't they? Yeah, I don't know what she did for a living, Bluebell. I don't think she needed to work for a living. So it seems, I don't know if you caught what I was saying earlier from this article. She received all these different payouts, not only the one from Andrew, but she received a payout from Epstein. How much did it say it was for? Hang on. She received a payout from Epstein of $500,000 in 2009 and an undisclosed payment from Ghislaine in 2017. Also, did her husband have money? I don't know if he had money, but yeah, 4 properties she had. 4 properties, 6-bedroom seafront home and a ranch in near Gabby in Perth. And, so she had a lot of properties. I don't think she ever had to worry about money, but my point that I'm trying to say is it didn't make her happy, did it? She still allegedly took her own life, despite all the money she had. And now where has that money gone? So she's supposed to have amassed a $22 million fortune. That's just in settlements and compensation. As I say, I think she'll have been paid for interviews and stuff like that over the years. But now apparently all she's got left is $472,000, which is a lot of money, but it's a big difference from millions of dollars, isn't it? Where has the money gone? Well, she had all these payouts, Bluebell. I think that's where they came from. We're going to have a look at him. I don't know what he does. Is he independently wealthy in his own right? I'll just show. This is him. I was saying, doesn't he look like that Desi Freeman, that guy that's on the run in Australia? He looks like him, I think. Be his brother. Yeah, I mean, I think Virginia was very much in love with him. But now, or recently, she said that he had been abusive. Let's have a look at that, actually. So, yeah, we're going to have a look a bit more about what she says about him. Sorry, sneezing. Bless me. So, Virginia Giuffre's family, what to know about her estranged husband and 3 children. This is the People. So there's Virginia with her children. Gosh, they look like their dad, don't they? My God, they're the spit of their dad. I think she was estranged from her children, wasn't she? It was very mysterious. Just before Virginia died, of course, she released those awful photos where she said she'd been in a car accident and she was bruised all over her face, wasn't she? But then that was, the police said that they couldn't find any evidence of that accident. Virginia's whole life and death is a mystery, isn't it? I think she had a very sad life, a short life, 41, when she died. And although she had a good life, this is what I'm trying to say, she had a good life financially, all these properties, and, she used to go riding. She probably did more or less what she wanted, but she couldn't shake off her demons, could she? She wasn't happy. She was not happy, despite all that money, despite everything. Thank you for the, So Virginia Giuffre shared 3 children with her estranged husband, and a few weeks before her death, I think her death is so suspicious. The more I hear about it, the more I think it's even more suspicious, So a few weeks before her death, she told people that Robert had allegedly been abusing her for years, although he has not been charged with any crime. So he's never been charged with anything. And then she was prevented from seeing her children in the months leading up to her death as a result of a restraining order filed by Robert. So he filed a restraining order on her. Even though this is a common thing I don't know what happened. I'm not privy to what happened inside their relationship. Maybe Virginia did act erratically or whatever. But one thing I do know from making videos about true crime, very often abusers accuse look at Gabby Petito and Brian, whatever his name was, when the police stopped them on the road. In the end, Gabby Petito was thought of as the abuser. Now, this quite often happens that abusers make it look like the person they're abusing is abusing them. That's a common thing that they do to deflect from their own behavior. I'm not saying that's what her husband did, because as I say, I don't know what the circumstances were, but it's common. So a few weeks before her death, she told people that Robert had allegedly been abusing her for years, although he's not been charged with any crime. But it was her that was prevented from seeing her children as a result of a restraining order filed by Robert. Strange, isn't it? She's accusing him of abuse, but he's filed a restraining order and been successful in getting a restraining order against poor Virginia. But maybe it was justified, because, as I say, I don't know the ins and outs. As you say, Joanne, her last few months were definitely a mystery, and her death is a mystery. I'm still not convinced that this woman took her own life at all. Again, that's all a mystery, isn't it? Who was there with her? She's supposed to have HANGED'd herself. That's unusual for women. It's not unheard of, but it is unusual. But anyway, I don't know. So Virginia was outspoken about the years of abuse she endured before she died, but it was the birth of one of her children that inspired her to come forward in the first place. After meeting in 2002, Virginia, who was one of the most vocal accusers of convicted sex offenders, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, before her April 2025 death. Yeah, it was this year in April when she did what she did, if she did it, before her book was released. It just seems strange to me. There's, I know I've written books, and, you can't wait to see how, when you put all that effort into writing a book. I mean, maybe she had a ghostwriter, I don't know, but she will have put effort into it. You've released a book. You can't wait to see how it's received. It's a lot of writing a book takes a long time. It's not, don't just do it in a week. It takes years sometimes. And mine, I wrote, like in my Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, I wrote in a blog format. So I wrote a bit at a time, and then I put it all together and made it a book. It's hard to write a book. I've got 2 books that I'm trying to write at the moment that I just can't find the time to do. One of which, of course, I've put on this channel. But I haven't written any. I need to get back on it. You've got to be in the zone and you need time. So she's gone to all that trouble to write that book, and then she's took her own life before she even sees it published. Doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, apparently it was the birth of one of her children that inspired her to come forward. So let's see. So she was married to her husband, Robert, for over 2 decades. Together they welcomed 3 children, sons Christian and Noah, and daughter Emily. And throughout their marriage, Virginia shared heartfelt posts about Robert on her Instagram. However, just before her death, she claimed that the pair were facing personal turmoil behind closed doors. So, yes, she said how fabulous he is, what a brilliant husband he was. On Instagram, we all know that social media is, you can look at someone's social media And it means nothing to what's really going on behind the scenes, does it? So then suddenly, so 1 minute he's the best husband since sliced bread, and they've got this fight. He's held her together through all this, and then the next minute is an abuser. So where's the truth? So in late March 2025, Virginia told people that her husband had allegedly been abusing her for years, and that she could no longer stay silent. Robert's attorney declined to comment to People at the time. When I say People, I mean the magazine. And then just a few weeks later, her family confirmed she had died by self-deletion on April the 24th, 2025. Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against sex abuse and sex trafficking. The light of her life were her children, Christian, Noah, and Emily, the statement continued. It was when she held her newborn daughter in her arms that Virginia realized she had to fight back against those who had abused her and so many others. So here's everything to know about Virginia Giuffre's family, including her estranged husband and 3 children. So she was married to this man for 22 years. So it's a long time. Long time. She met him in 2002 while she was training to become a masseuse in Thailand for Epstein. And ahead of her death, Virginia's brother Sky and his wife Amanda said that she and Robert had been experiencing marital issues for a while and had separated sometime around August 2023. She and Robert welcomed the 3 children together. Here are her 3 children. Sons Christian and Noah and daughter Emily. And over the years, Virginia shared a few photos of her kids on Instagram, including a selfie with her eldest son. In February 2020, me and my number one, the reason life ever made sense to me and more. Love you, CJ. But we mustn't forget that just before she died, there was a restraining order against her, and she was estranged not only from her husband but her children. So apparently it was her daughter's birth that inspired her to speak out about Epstein's abuse. During a December 2019 conversation with Glamour, Virginia revealed that she made the decision to come forward about Epstein's abuse on January the 7th, 2010, the day her daughter Emily was born. Not that my boys don't matter, but I looked at this baby girl, and before we even named her, I just had this overwhelming feeling. My husband has pictures of me crying over this little girl. I just couldn't imagine bringing her into a world where I know what happened to me and I know what I went through. So it would affect her more, wouldn't it, to have a girl? And she'd see herself in that little girl. Virginia explained she felt the responsibility to protect her and other children. When I saw her, that was the turning point. That's when I said, we've got to do something. We've got to hold these people accountable. I refuse to let my daughter grow up in a world that this is acceptable or okay. Yeah. But then in late March, do you remember this? Virginia revealed in an Instagram post she had gone into kidney renal failure after a car crash, and doctors had given her 4 days to live. And then less than a week later, she shared in a statement to People in which she claimed her husband had allegedly abused her for years, and she'd been hesitant to speak publicly about it until now. I was able to fight back against Ghislaine and Jeffrey, who abused and trafficked me, but I was unable to escape the domestic violence in my marriage until recently. After my husband's latest physical assault, I can no longer stay silent. A spokesperson for Virginia confirmed that she had reported an assault on January the 9th, 2025, but they did not charge Robert for a crime. Robert did not respond to this magazine's texts or calls when contacted in April, but his attorney replied, "Unfortunately, as the issues you raise are before the courts in Australia, both he and anyone associated with the case, including Miss Giuffre or her agents, are prohibited from discussing or utilising the media. Therefore, there is no comment." So, yeah, prevented from seeing her children. I mean, that would have depressed her, of course. So, maybe that's part of the reason if she did do it to herself. So she was faced with a restraining order from Robert, which he took out in February 2025, and that prevented her from seeing her children until June. Robert claimed she violated the order, which Virginia denied. And according to her brother Sky, the restraining order gave Robert primary custody of the children and prohibited Virginia from contacting them. It's very sad, isn't it? She had a sad life, didn't she? For all the money and for all the properties and, the jet-setting lifestyle she had as a victim, of course. But after that as well, she wasn't happy. She wasn't happy. It's very sad. As a result, the distance from her children took a toll on Virginia, as Sky and her sister-in-law, Amanda, told people following her death. At the end of the day, her kids are the most important thing in her life, Sky said. She loves those babies. And in March 2025, Virginia had shared a carousel of images of her kids on Instagram, writing that her beautiful babies have no clue how much she loves them and claimed that they were being poisoned with lies. "I miss them so very much. I've been through hell and back in my 41 years. Yeah, 41 is not old, is it? Like to get to the end of the road. Hi, Maria. To get to the end of the road at 41. So very sad. So very sad. Yeah, Maria, we were talking about that earlier. All these funds have disappeared. Where are they? Where are the millions of pounds that she's had? They're down to just thousands now. Which is still a lot of money, but the millions of pounds, not only the payoff from Andrew, but payoff she's had from Epstein, payoff she had from Maxwell not that long ago. And that was an undisclosed amount. I think she'll have had payment. She's probably had an advance for a book. She's probably received money for interviews and things. I mean, she had money. Where is it? So this is the post she put on. "I miss them so very much. I've been through hell and back in my 41 years, but this is incredibly hurting me worse than anything else." She continued, "My heart is shattered, and every day that passes, my sadness only deepens." And then shortly after that, because that was March this year, in April this year, she supposedly, if you believe it, took her own life. Now, you can see that she wasn't happy because of not being able to see her children. So maybe that is a motive to take her own life. But I still think 100% she would not have done that without sorting out her financial arrangements properly and making sure her husband didn't get any of her money. And waiting I still can't believe that she did that before a book came out and she saw how it was received. So she didn't get to see Andrew lose his title. She was right on the brink of all this justice, that was coming, and she never got to see it. Well, she will get to see it, of course, but, from another world, like she'd be probably looking down and loving it, but she should have been here to see it. I think she must have been very lonely. I don't know why they split up. Did he have somebody else? Let's have a little Google of that, actually. I'm not sure what was the reason that she split from her husband. 22 years is a long time to be married. So according to Google, which is AI these days, isn't it? Virginia Giuffre separated from her husband amidst allegations she made that he had physically abused her. And this detail was kept out of her memoir initially for her family's safety, but later revealed by family members after her death, connecting her experience with broader themes of abuse and trafficking. The split occurred after she had already become a prominent voice against Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, leading to a complex situation involving family violence restraining orders before her passing in 2025. Yeah. So she's accused him of abuse, but she was the one. Who got the restraining order against her. Strange, isn't it? But that does happen quite often. Abusive partners will try and make it look as if it's the person that's been abused who in fact is the abuser. They're very clever with things like that. And in fact, maybe it'll all come out more one day when it goes through court and that. Seems ironic, doesn't it, that she was accusing him of abuse, but she was the one that got the restraining orders against her. So the children, the boys, they're teenagers, aren't they? I don't know exactly how old they are, but I think they're teenagers. And the little girl, I say that she's a young teenager now, 13. I'm not sure. Let's see if we can find how old the children are. I mean, you can imagine how they feel. That was their mum, and they couldn't see her. So we've got Christian is 19. He's the oldest. Noah is 18, and Emily. It says that we don't know how old exactly Emily is. Didn't she say in that article that we read out when the year she was born? Let's see. For it said the year she was born. So Emily was born on January the 7th, 2010. So she's 15. So, they're all teenagers, these children now. So I hope they're okay, because I think they'll probably feel quite bad about not having spoken to the mum and then her taking her own life. But the girl is 15 apparently. Yeah, the boys are 18 or 19 and 19. And Emily, the girl in the middle, she's now 15. Yeah, Maria, we did read all that out earlier, but I know you've come in later. But yeah, Virginia's carers. And the thing is, what my question there is, were they there at the time when Virginia died? And what did she need carers for? Companion and carer, it said. We read out an article earlier about it. It's quite, it's a very complex situation, isn't it? And there's a lot that we still don't know. I mean, why did she need carers? Just trying to find that article that I read out earlier. Yeah, look, because This is the article I read out earlier from LBC. So they are. So Carrie Loudon, one of Giuffre's lawyers, is challenging the boys' application to be appointed administrators. So the boys, Christian and Noah, 19 and 18, who live with their father, so they'll be under a lot of his influence, successfully applied to the court to be appointed administrators early this year, and they're being challenged by Carrie Loudon, one of Giuffre's lawyers, and Cheryl Myers, her housekeeper and carer. Now, I could see why she would need a housekeeper, because she got a big house there, or had a bit. Was she there at the time when Virginia took her own life, supposedly? This is, this case hasn't finished as it is. Very, very mysterious. That's okay. I just to let, because you won't be the only one. There'll be other people and replay crew watching it that are probably coming in late. It's a very complex situation, isn't it? It's very complex, very sad. This is Virginia's brother, of course, and his wife. They've got a lot to say about it. And Virginia, she's like got this. When I look at Virginia's face, it's like this Mona Lisa face. You don't know what's going on, behind those faces. She's very enigmatic, isn't she? She's carrying a lot of burdens that she's carried all her life from being a victim either of trafficking or of domestic abuse, it seems. It's all that you can see it behind her eyes. She's got that Mona Lisa look. That's the only way I can explain it. Even when she's smiling, there's a sadness, isn't there, behind her eyes? Her eyes are very sad, I think. So, as I say, as time goes on, other things are going to come out about this. Poor Virginia. And, sadly, she wasn't there to see Andrew get at least a little bit of his comeuppance. Though, why he's not in prison, I don't know. They might have taken his title away from him and moved him to a smaller mansion than the mansion he was living with before. But he's still got his servants and his privileged lifestyle. Not much of a punishment, really, is it? If that was, you or me or one of our relatives, the normal people, the bloody plebs, we'd be in prison. Not for Andrew, though. He's not going to prison, is he? He's not even been questioned. Anyway, she didn't get to, she would have been glad to see at least him losing his titles, etc. Hi, Lily. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about for this this video, I did this video because I wanted, I want you, if you, maybe you've already bought a book, but I wanted to say to you, don't buy a book, because we don't know where the proceeds for this book are going. I'm certainly not putting any money in that man's pocket. Like if somebody's siphoning off her resources, her money, and her estate has gone down from millions to thousands, I certainly don't want to be buying the book. And, this is what I said quite a few weeks ago now in a video, don't buy the book. But if you have already bought the book, you've bought the book and that's it. But I wanted to point out to you, because a lot of people, they want to buy the book because they want to know what's happened. They want to know the details. But this is a book that's coming out in January by Sarah McCarthy, another of the survivors. Inside the Diary of an Epstein Survivor, Blue Butterfly. I'm going to read, what it's supposedly about. And I would recommend buying this book because at least at the moment, this girl is still alive. At least the proceeds are going to her. Now, I found this cover very evocative because I'm 100, honest to God, I really feel, especially after seeing those videos of Epstein's Island, I think girls may have been disposed of there. I just feel it. And seeing her like that, like she's drowning, just made me think, were girls, we know that girls were abused on that island because Virginia was abused by that prime minister. I mean, physically abused, not just in an sex way, but choked, assaulted violently, and he thought it was hilarious. I wouldn't be surprised if girls really refused to go along with when they realized what was expected of them, because Epstein would get them there saying he was going to offer them that's what he did with this girl. I'm going to read it out in a minute. Offer it, saying they would get modeling contracts with Victoria's Secret or some other model thing. Don't forget he was working with that model, the French guy Brunel, who also ended up being found hanged in his cell. He was a model agent for a modeling agency. Modeling and photography was the way they got these girls. Promise them the world. Then they take them off to a private island. These girls can't get off this island. Once they're there, sometimes they got their passports taken away from them as well. So let me just read to you what the preface to this book, what they say about it on the cover. In the world's collective memory, Jeffrey Epstein is a disgraced financier, a serial sex trafficker, and a man whose crimes shocked the world. Blue Butterfly dismantles the illusion that he was a lone predator. Instead, it exposes a far darker reality, one deliberately hidden from public view. At the heart of this expose is Kay, a survivor whose story is captured in a pink diary with a blue butterfly on the cover. In 2002, when she was 20 years old, she was recruited by Epstein while she was touring Africa with a high-profile entourage that included Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker. After attending a staged casting, she was lured into the predator's web with the false promise of a Victoria's Secret modelling contract. Once she was extracted from her home country and severed from her family, she was immediately abducted and abused. She was given short notice to pack for the Caribbean. Her name, now this is what chills me completely, and I think there's definitely girls disappeared on that island. We'll probably never know, and why we won't know is because of this. Her name was conspicuously absent from the flight logs. So although she went to the island, her name was not on the flight logs, and no one knew she was traveling to Epstein's private island. To this day, she remains convinced that had she failed to comply, she would never have lived to tell her story. And that's what I've thought for a long time, but especially after seeing the videos of the island, how vulnerable those girls were. And all those statues of hunters and things around, did they hunt girls on that island? Did they hunt them? That's how it feels to me. You can imagine, I can sort of see it mentally. The girls running away and them chasing them down. And I bet for some of those girls, they probably jumped into the water to try and escape these horrible men, because they were violent. That prime minister, he was violent as well as being abusive. It's bad enough being an abuser, and that's terrible in itself. But the violence and the assaults, and he choked Virginia, according to her, and laughed as he was doing it. He's a sadist. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if some of the girls went into the water around that island. They'd never be seen again. This girl, she wasn't on the flight log, so nobody would even know she ever went there. It's horrible. I think, it is so much deeper than people think. Hi, David. You know, there's so much more to this, I think. Those horrible photos and videos from the island. I think there's definitely girls died there. I'm sure if they didn't comply. And this girl, that's how she felt. That if she did not comply, she would never have lived to tell her story. So anyway, so what I'm saying to you is don't buy Virginia's book, not because, no offense to Virginia, and it's not, you know, I feel for Virginia and I would love to read her story in full, maybe one day. But this book is coming out in January, but you can pre-order it. You can pre-order it, and I think at least you know the profits are going to this girl. She deserves the bloody profits. I hope that book becomes a bestseller as well. And the only thing about Virginia's book is, you know, it's good if if people buy it and they're getting the knowledge of what happened, that's good. I know it is, but it just sticks in your craw, doesn't it? To sort of, it's to think that you might be putting money into this man's pocket. I don't want to put money into his pocket. You know, I feel like Virginia's still being taken advantage of, even though she's not on this planet anymore. You know, who wants to give him any money? And, I think, I don't know about this situation with her kids, why this restraining order was put up against her children, so she couldn't see her children. Why was that? Maybe she did do something, maybe she did do something. No, I didn't know that, David. Well, you know what? That wouldn't surprise me. So David's saying that Epstein's aircraft has a rear stair that can be lowered even in flight. Has it ever been used to get rid of evidence? Who knows? But the thing is, I suppose if they did it over the sea, a body wouldn't necessarily turn up, would it? But nothing would surprise me with this man. And, after seeing those videos and those weird statues they're all like hunters, aren't they? I think they were hunting women, literally hunting those girls. If the girls wouldn't comply, you would have, I'm surprised. There's going to be more comes out, surely more girls are going to come out. And I mean, a lot of them have come out. But a lot of them still will be terrified because you've only got to look. So Virginia was 41. She had children. Now you've only got to look at what's happened to Epstein. Did he do it to himself, or did somebody else do it to him? You've got that Brunel guy. There's a pile of bodies around this case as well. And now Virginia, there's 3 people concerned with this case that all been found hanging, apparently. So even if you wanted to come forward, you'd still be scared. And if you have family, because, often these types of powerful people, they don't threaten you, they threaten your family. So that's the way of getting to you. And they know that you might be more likely to stand up to them rather than worry about your own safety. But you certainly won't want your family to be hurt in any way. So there's so many reasons why even now people would be scared to speak up. Because really, apart from Epstein and Maxwell, nobody else has been arrested. Why have there been no other arrests? If they're supposedly they've got this list of names, they're bloody drip feeding these files out to us, but release the list of names and arrest the people that this Prime Minister, whatever his name is, arrest them. And then maybe people feel more comfortable in coming forward. They're just sort of imagining, like, if you were 20, like that girl from Blue Butterfly, and you're an aspiring model, and you meet, you know, these rich people, powerful people. Jeffrey Epstein has got his own private jet, and he says he'll take you off for an audition for a modelling contract for Victoria's Secret. That's probably like a pinnacle, isn't it? You'd be like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Off you'd go, you'd be all excited. You get to the island and then realise what's expected of you. You'll get the contract, but there's a bigger price to pay, isn't there? What are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? You're on an island miles away from anywhere. You can't get home without getting back on the plane that you came on that belongs to the person who's trying to abuse you. What are you going to do? You know, you'd have to go along with it, wouldn't you? You'd have to. It's either that or, you know, he'd probably throw you in the sea or whatever. And even when you got back to America or wherever you came from, you think, oh, well, go to the authorities then. But who's going to believe you? Who's going to believe a 20-year-old girl over a powerful man like Jeffrey Epstein with all these powerful friends? Nobody is going to believe you, are they? Hi, Bad Fairy. I'm just finishing off now because I started quite early today. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to say in this video. I wanted to say, don't buy Virginia's book. You know, if you've already bought it, you've already bought it. But, you know, I won't be buying it because I'm not giving her ex-husband any money. So there's all this controversy about her estate. Where have all her millions gone? Who's taken them? Who's taken the money? Where's the money? And why did Virginia do what she did just before a book was coming out, etc.? And who was there with her? You know, this carer now that they're talking about, or housekeeper, you know, just, I don't know. It's so mysterious. The whole thing is so mysterious. But yeah, buy the Blue Butterfly book if you want sort of more of an inside story on Epstein without giving any of your money to Virginia's estranged husband, who seems to be a piece of shit, basically. Though, you know, maybe he isn't, but that's how it comes over to me. Blue Butterfly is on sale from January on Amazon, but you can pre-order it. And this is another girl giving her story of what happened. So I think, you know, Virginia, the baton has to pass on now, doesn't it? Because Virginia is not here anymore to talk about her story. However, she ended up, you know, going from this world. So the baton has to be passed over. One of the other girls needs to become, you know, the voice for these girls. But, you know, that'd be scary too. Because you're going out there, look what happened to Virginia. You'd be thinking, well, if I go out there and put my head above the parapet, what will happen to me? Or what will happen to my family? What, four of the girls are dead? Bad Fairy. What happened to them? Did they delete themselves as well? Supposedly. The thing is, you know, people may or may not know, but actually if you know, covering up a murder by making it look like self-deletion, hanging is probably one of the most efficient ways of doing it. You know, it's very difficult. You know, it's probably happened loads of times in loads of cases. I don't know. Anyway, poor Virginia. Prayers for Virginia and her family. So they're facing this horrible Christmas. You know, looking for, you know, while everybody else or lots of people are looking forward to Christmas, we've always got to remember these families that are facing their first Christmas without a loved one, or, you know, even if they didn't always see Virginia maybe at Christmas. you know, knowing that you've got to face Christmas and with the trauma that's happened to this family. I know, you know, I feel for her kids. How do they feel, I wonder? How do they feel knowing that they weren't speaking to their mum just before what she did, you know? Anyway, if she did it, of course. Right, thank you for watching. And let's just, I think we're still looking for justice for Virginia, aren't we? You know, just because Andy Pandy has had his silly title removed and been moved to a different mansion, and you know, it's not proper punishment, is it? They were still looking for we're still looking for justice for Virginia, I think, and all the other girls, of course. Anyway, a lot more, of course, to come out of this. This is going to be an ongoing case, isn't it? Ongoing situation. I always refer to Epstein as the ghost of Christmas past, because I think, you know, this man died years ago, but he's having a reverberating effect on Trumpy, on the royal family, on all sorts of, you know, famous people. And when these files come out properly, I want to see the videos. That's what I want to see, because 100% there's going to be videos. That's what I'd like to see, the proof. And I'd like to see other people being arrested, the men being arrested. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Until then, may your God go with you. Bye. Let's put Silent Night on to go out. Merry Christmas. Well, it's not Christmas yet, but I hope you're all looking forward to it and getting prepared.